Remember when Friday nights had a rhythm? When families piled into the car, the sun already down, and the blue glow of a Blockbuster sign lit the parking lot like a promise? You could feel it before you even walked in. The hum of fluorescent lights, the soft chatter, the smell of plastic VHS cases and microwave popcorn. There was a sense of anticipation, of choice, of ritual. Finding the perfect movie wasn't instant, it was earned. You wandered the aisles, held the box in your hands, flipped it over to read the back, and argued gently over which film everyone could agree on. For 2 decades, Blockbuster wasn't just a store, it was the pulse of American leisure, a place where community still existed, where strangers talked about movies in person instead of watching them alone behind screens. In a time before streaming, before endless algorithms, Blockbuster gave us something simple and human. The pleasure of decision, the weight of patience, the joy of holding a story before it began. But somewhere along the way, something changed. The shelves grew emptier, the aisles quieter. The ritual faded, replaced by a click, a recommendation, a scroll. The soul of American entertainment was sold off in the name of convenience. And what we lost wasn't just a company. We lost the rhythm of our own evenings, the feeling of belonging to a shared moment in time. This is how Blockbuster lost its soul, and how a generation lost one of its most innocent rituals. Before we begin, if you remember those nights, if you remember the sound of rewinding tapes and the thrill of picking something before it disappeared, subscribe for more stories like this one. Because remembering isn't just nostalgia, it's how we understand what mattered and why it's worth not forgetting. The story of Blockbuster begins far from Hollywood glamour. In 1985, a man named David Cook opened a small video rental store in Dallas, Texas. He wasn't a movie executive or a showman. He was a computer programmer who loved efficiency. What he built was unlike anything America had seen before. Most video stores back then were cramped, dimly lit, and disorganized. Cook's store was the opposite, bright, clean, and meticulously catalogued. The walls were lined with rows of blue and yellow tapes, each with identical labels. Customers could finally find what they wanted without digging through chaos. The idea caught fire immediately. Within a year, Cook realized he wasn't running a shop. He'd created a system. Blockbuster's database could track every rental, every late fee, every customer preference. It was the first video store to use computers to manage inventory, and that single innovation turned what had been a messy corner business into a scalable empire. By 1987, Blockbuster had grown into a national brand. The blue ticket logo became a symbol of Friday nights in suburbia. Families knew it by heart. Stop at Blockbuster, pick up a movie, grab some snacks, maybe pizza on the way home. It wasn't about entertainment, it was about routine, connection, the collective pause before the weekend began. In 1994, media mogul Viacom bought Blockbuster for $8.4 billion, one of the largest deals in entertainment history at the time. There were over 400 stores in operation, and a new one opened somewhere in America every 17 hours. The company became more than a brand, it was an institution. Children who grew up in the 80s and 90s can still remember the hum of the lights, the clatter of plastic cases, the Be Kind Rewind stickers, reminding everyone that even stories had to be treated with care. Behind the counter, teenagers found their first jobs. Parents found small moments of peace. For $2 and a late fee, you could bring home laughter, fear, romance, whatever you needed that night. It was affordable magic wrapped in a plastic case. By the late 1990s, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores across the world. On any given weekend, it served more than 3 million customers. The yellow and blue glow was as recognizable as McDonald's golden arches. There were Blockbuster cards in nearly every wallet in America. In towns too small for a mall or a theater, it was the cultural center. Blockbuster had built something rare, a business that was also a ritual. People didn't just rent movies, they experienced the act of choosing them. Families walked the aisles together, kids begged for candy, couples debated between comedies and thrillers. The trip itself was part of the reward. There was something sacred about the wait, about knowing the movie you wanted might be out, and having to pick a second choice. The disappointment, the compromise, the discovery, that's what made it real. Blockbuster had managed to industrialize nostalgia in real time. It wasn't selling tapes, it was selling the illusion of time well spent, of choice and control, of a shared moment under flickering fluorescent lights. For a generation, it worked, until the world decided that waiting wasn't worth it anymore. By 1997, a quiet revolution had begun in California. Two men, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, founded a small company that would change entertainment forever. It was called Netflix. At first, it seemed harmless, an online DVD rental service that mailed discs to your house. No stores, no late fees, no lines. It was clunky, slow, and unprofitable. But it planted a seed that would grow into Blockbuster's nightmare. The difference wasn't just technology, it was philosophy. Netflix believed people didn't want the ritual, they wanted convenience. While Blockbuster saw aisles and shelves, Netflix saw data, algorithms, and freedom from human friction. By 2000, Netflix had fewer than 300,000 subscribers and was losing money fast. Hastings flew to Dallas to meet with Blockbuster executives. He offered them a partnership. Netflix would run the online side, Blockbuster would handle the stores. The deal could have merged nostalgia with innovation. The asking price was $50 million. The response was laughter. Blockbuster's CEO, John Antioco, didn't believe customers would ever abandon physical stores. To him, Netflix was a novelty, not a threat. That single meeting became one of the most infamous business rejections in history. At the same time, Blockbuster was making a series of fatal decisions. Late fees, once a minor annoyance, became a public scandal. Customers hated them, but the company depended on them. Nearly $800 million of its annual revenue came from penalties. When executives finally removed late fees in 2005, it was already too late. The goodwill they hoped to regain was gone, and the move cost them hundreds of millions in lost income. Meanwhile, Netflix was perfecting its model. No due dates, no shame, no extra charges. Blockbuster still looked powerful from the outside. In 2004, it had over 9,000 stores and 60,000 employees. But inside, the soul was rotting. The company had become obsessed with quarterly profits and shareholder returns. It began focusing on upselling candy and games rather than improving customer experience. The once hallowed aisles turned into cluttered spaces filled with impulse buys and marketing posters. The warmth was gone. What had been a ritual was becoming a transaction. When Blockbuster finally tried to launch its own online rental service, it was a copy of Netflix, rushed and confused. The leadership didn't understand digital culture. They still believed people wanted to browse in person. But by 2007, broadband internet was spreading fast, and Netflix introduced streaming, instant access to movies, without mail, without stores, without the trip. It wasn't perfect, but it was the beginning of something unstoppable. Blockbuster's executives panicked. They tried promotions, free rentals, loyalty cards, anything to slow the bleeding. They launched Blockbuster Total Access, which allowed customers to rent online and return in-store. It was a good idea, but the company didn't have the infrastructure or patience to sustain it. Within a year, the program was cut back. Customers left in waves. Netflix grew stronger with every defector. By 2009, Blockbuster was drowning in debt, over $900 million. Its market value, once billions, was now a fraction of what it had been. The empire that once symbolized family and familiarity had become a relic overnight. Stores began closing one by one. The blue lights dimmed, the rituals stopped. Friday nights got quieter. The sound of rewinding was replaced by silence. The truth is, Blockbuster didn't just lose to Netflix. It lost to its own arrogance. The company mistook size for security and loyalty for permanence. It believed people came for the movies, when in reality, they came for the feeling. Netflix didn't just offer convenience, it rewired desire itself. And once people got used to instant access, there was no going back. By 2010, the illusion of stability was gone. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy with nearly $1 billion in debt and over 6,000 stores worldwide. The empire that had once defined American leisure was dismantled piece by piece. Buildings that had been bright and alive for decades were suddenly dark, their shelves stripped bare. Employees who had grown up behind the counter watched the signs come down. They weren't just losing a job, they were losing a chapter of their own youth. The company that had shaped childhoods and weekends had become another casualty of the digital age. For years, Blockbuster had been part of the American landscape, as familiar as gas stations and diners. And just like them, it was disappearing. The blue and yellow logo that once represented excitement now felt like a relic, a fossil of an analog world. When Dish Network bought what remained of Blockbuster in 2011, there was talk of revival, of a digital future. But nothing came of it. The brand had already become a ghost. By 2013, almost every Blockbuster in America had closed. Almost. In Bend, Oregon, One store refused to die. It wasn't backed by corporate funding or a desperate business plan. It survived through love. Its manager, Sandy Harding, kept the lights on long after the company was gone. She rented out VHS tapes, DVDs, even old candy that customers remembered from the 90s. People drove for hours just to walk those aisles again, to feel that quiet sense of belonging. It became a pilgrimage site for nostalgia, a museum still doing business. In a digital world, the last Blockbuster became something sacred, proof that memories could still be physical. By 2019, the Bend location was the only one left on Earth. Netflix had become a global titan, streaming billions of hours every week, while Blockbuster was reduced to a single store tucked away in Oregon. And yet, that store drew attention from around the world. Documentaries were made about it. Tourists took photos under the glowing sign. People cried at the checkout counter. Because the truth was simple, Blockbuster was never just about movies. It was about time, the slow kind of time we used to have, the time it took to choose, to wait, to rewind, the kind of time we traded away for convenience. Inside that last store, surrounded by shelves of faded covers and humming lights, you can still feel what America used to be. Not perfect, but human. You can almost hear the sound of laughter, the clatter of plastic, the low murmur of families deciding what to watch together. It's more than nostalgia. It's a reminder that progress always asks for something in return, and sometimes what it takes is the soul of a generation. When Blockbuster fell, it wasn't just another company closing its doors. It was the quiet end of a ritual that once brought people together. For 25 years, it gave America something that streaming never could, an experience that asked us to slow down. We had to get in the car, walk through the aisles, make choices, and live with them. Every rental carried a bit of commitment. You couldn't scroll past a movie. You had to take it home, rewind it, and return it on time. There was responsibility in that simplicity. And because of it, there was meaning. Today, we live in an age where every story is one click away, but somehow they feel emptier. We no longer gather around a tape or argue over which film to pick. We watch alone, in silence, while algorithms decide for us. We've traded anticipation for convenience, patience for speed, connection for isolation. What we gained in access, we lost in ritual. And somewhere in that trade, the soul of entertainment changed. The death of Blockbuster isn't just about business failure, it's about cultural amnesia. It's a reminder of how easily the things that shape our lives can vanish once they stop being profitable. Those stores were never just retail, they were memory engines. Aisles filled with possibility, laughter, and sometimes disappointment, the kind of imperfection that made them human. If you ever stood beneath that blue sign, holding a movie in your hands, wondering if it was the right choice, that moment still matters. It was proof that entertainment could feel communal, tangible, and alive. The loss of Blockbuster is the loss of something deeper, the small, ordinary magic of choosing together. In Bend, Oregon, the last Blockbuster still stands. Its shelves are fading, its sign flickers, but its doors remain open. People go there not for convenience, but for remembrance. To feel what it was like when entertainment had weight, when stories came with fingerprints and time attached. We didn't just lose a company, we lost the rhythm of Friday nights, the glow of a neighborhood landmark, the patient joy of rewinding. We lost a mirror that once reflected who we were, social, curious, connected. Maybe we had to, maybe progress demands forgetting. But somewhere, in that last store in Oregon, under the hum of fluorescent light, the old world is still alive, just waiting for someone to press play one more time.